Pursuant to the markup notice, it is now in order to consider H.R. 2317, the Northern Nevada Economic Development and Conservation Act of 2025. Without objection, the bill will be considered as read and open to amendment at any point. Does any member wish to be recognized for purpose of debate on the bill? Mr. Amadei, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just by way of a brief statement, this legislation, in one form or another, has been before this committee since the 117th Congress. The biggest footprint in H.R. 2317 is located within Pershing County, which is a county along the route of the Transcontinental Railroad. Approximately 350,000 acres was checkerboard land granted pursuant to the Transcontinental Railroad Act. The county has come to us and requested that as part of the Public Lands Bill process that we consolidate that ground. This bill contains that consolidation language, which is important for consideration purposes because the federal estate doesn't grow under the consolidation and neither does the private estate. It is basically, instead of taking an unusable checkerboard land pattern, says basically here's the federal pieces and here's the private pieces. In addition to that, in Pershing County, there are 4,500 acres that are created for economic development, and there's a conservation element for over 100,000 acres, all generated from the supervisors in Pershing County asked for those land changes to that. The next biggest footprint is Douglas County, which borders the southeast portion of South Lake Tahoe and goes down into the valley, into the Carson Valley next to that. This footprint contains about 7,000 acres to be conveyed to the Washoe tribe, which is the indigenous tribe in the Lake Tahoe Basin. And then it also creates about 7,000 acres that's transferred to the county, the vast majority of which is for municipal floodplain improvements and drainage improvements. So you have that portion. Of the remaining parts of the bill, of the remaining 9 counties affected, covers all of the rest of the bill, which are all small parts that were requested by the county for various purposes: cemetery, parks, some economic development, some around housing areas, much smaller footprints than those first 2. And you say, well, that's nice. Why are you doing that? And the reason we're doing that is because Nevada is a state that's about 83% federally owned, largest percentage of any state in the nation. It's not because somebody woke up one day and said, hey, it'd be cool to have this federal ground. Literally every community in the state at that ownership percentage is surrounded by federal land. So if you want land for a cemetery, or you want land for a park, or you want to convey to a tribe where the county commission has negotiated and agreed, you have to come to this committee and to Congress to do that. So I want to allay any fears. We took up a Nevada lands bill during reconciliation. This is not that bill. This is a bill that is strictly in northern Nevada, has been in process, actually was passed out of the House in the 115th session for the vast majority of it. But I don't want to say housekeeping or anything like that because everybody's antennas will go up. But having said that, if you want to give your communities in your district the ability to grow responsibly, you have to come to the Congress to get some land freed up for various purposes to do that. So I would represent to you that this is a holistic package that balances conservation and economic development that allows Nevada communities to enjoy the ability to plan for their own futures. And as a final thing, I'd like to say that it enjoys bipartisan support. The governor, the National Mining Association, the Farm Bureau, the Nevada Wildlife Coalition, Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, Conservation Lands Foundation, Friends of Nevada Wilderness, and all counties and tribes affected thereby. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Mr. Huffman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am glad to hear from my friend from Nevada that this is not that bill, because we all remember the midnight special when we were here, and in the dark of night, without any process, a last-minute attempt was made to sell off millions of acres of public land, an attempt that backfired due to widespread, nationwide opposition, including from some Republicans in this body. So I'm glad it's not that bill. that we're considering here today. But forgive us if after that experience, we want to make sure there's a robust process. We want to make sure we're careful. We want to make sure there's scrutiny and deliberation when we're talking about legislation that involves vast areas of our public land, such as this bill. This is an impressive and comprehensive bill that reflects years of engagement, negotiation, compromise. I want to acknowledge Mr. Amadei's hard work and dedication in this regard. He's been at this a long time, and I appreciate the desire to get this done before he retires at the end of this Congress. We'd love to be able to make that happen, but we have to do it right. The last time this bill was before this committee was in November of 2024, right before the end of the last Congress, and at that time the committee was asked to support an amendment that stripped out all of the conservation pieces in the bill. That meant no more wilderness, no more permanent protection for the Ruby Mountains. This amendment was controversial. It split up a lot of local support that Representative Amadei had worked hard to develop. Committee Democrats expressed concerns at that time over losing those conservation pieces, and so it's encouraging to see that some of them have stayed in the bill this time around. Advancing wilderness designation for almost 150,000 acres of public land in northern Nevada is progress. And while we're encouraged that our Republican colleagues are ready to support new conservation in the context of this bill, we still have a lot of questions and concerns about process and some of the specifics. First, we're surprised the bill came to us this month. There's been no hearing on it during this Congress. We only recently learned about the possibility of a markup. This is a 100-page, extremely technical bill that will impact the future of hundreds of thousands of acres of public land in Nevada. It's not something that we should be rushing through without measured consideration. A lot has changed since the committee last considered this bill, including that midnight special attempt to give away millions of acres of public land. Like many Nevada public lands bills that have come before it, this bill is a package of trade-offs. It strikes a balance between economic development and conservation. That is an ethos that we can all support and understand. Nevada is not the only public land state in the Union. My home state of California has a lot of public land, and my colleagues on the Democratic side certainly understand the dynamic of balancing various needs to ensure long-term stewardship coexists with thriving communities. That is a bipartisan goal and an important one. So it's very important that we get this balance right. Our public lands are national treasures that should not be sacrificed or sold off to the highest bidder without safeguards. Americans of all stripes oppose giving away public lands. This committee learned that lesson very clearly at the time of that midnight special during the reconciliation markup. In that instance, we were asked to support selling off public lands to help pay for President Trump's tax cuts for billionaires, a boondoggle. The response was loud and clear. Americans want to keep public lands in public hands. Now we're being asked to support some of those very same land sales again. The context is different. And while I understand that there's a significant amount of local support for H.R. 2317, this committee has a responsibility to the American public lands and every person who treasures them. The idea of public land sales, especially at the scale envisioned in this bill, is unpopular and potentially problematic, and none of this is happening in a vacuum. The Trump administration is doing everything right now in its power to undermine federal land management agencies, to roll back decades of conservation progress. Earlier this week, Trump illegally eliminated Bears Ears and Grand Staircase Escalante National Monuments in Utah over the objections of tribal communities. It's a hard time to greenlight the sale of thousands of acres in northern Nevada. Title V of this bill even authorizes the sale of encumbered land, also known as surface estate, directly to mining companies. This is something committee Democrats flagged as a concern last time around. So again, I want to reiterate that we appreciate the hard work and effort that's gone into this bill. Unfortunately, the spirit of outreach and coordination seems to have stopped when it came to working with committee Democrats. A large, complicated bill like this can't be rushed before the August recess. Better collaboration would have helped to craft a bill that we could have all supported. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Is there further discussion on the bill? Mr. Bench, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Congressman Amadei, for bringing this bill. I'm very familiar with this this space because I grew up on a ranch that ran back into Nevada out of Oregon, and the nature of the property that's involved is extraordinarily familiar to me. One of the things that's missing from not only the 19th century law that created the checkerboard structure for financing railroads, and also missing from here at the eastern end of the United States, is an understanding of the sheer size of states in the West, be it Alaska, be it Nevada, be it Oregon. But there are 56 million acres in Nevada of public land, 56 million acres. The amount that is being managed by this bill is an incredibly small fraction of that number. Now, people would come in and say, as we've heard, that every acre of public land is valuable, and there is truth to that. I will tell you, if you've driven from Winnemucca down to Reno, as I have many, many times, right through the middle of the space that's taking up a big chunk of this bill, you will see that there is a reason that each acre is worth, when I was growing up, $6. Today, I was looking at some of the numbers, it's about $150. An acre. Now, that's unheard of in this part of the United States because there's water on this end of the United States, and there isn't water in this particular space that we are discussing today. What Congressman Amadei's bill does is try to repair a structure for financing the railroads that was designed, believe it or not, to drive up the value of federal land so it could then be sold for money. That was the idea. The idea also was to prevent railroads from blocking up federal land. So they cleverly divided townships into alternating square miles of ownership, 1 square mile to the railroad and another square mile remaining public. The concept being that the railroad was to sell that property to private individuals, and that would drive up the value of the federal land retained, and we would then sell that federal land retained to help get our money back from what we use to finance railroads. What ended up happening in places like the county that Congressman Amadei's bill addresses was to freeze the use of that land and those little communities in place. That's why those towns are so incredibly small. Lovelock, for example, which I've driven through many, many times, is a little bitty town surrounded by this checkerboard pattern that prevents any kind of economic development. I support federal land remaining federal, but I don't support causing the paupership of people in our states, which is exactly what this structure is doing. The idea here in this bill is to fix that. And it has to be viewed in sense of the scale that's involved. 59 million acres of federal land in just Nevada. And this bill would address some extraordinarily small part of it in a very clever way. I do want to call out one thing on page 61 of the bill, line 11. And this is a situation, they're trying to say to the secretary that if there's going to be a buyer of a square mile of federal land that is not suitable, and I would say, for the record, that a buyer that's not suitable would be someone that's not the neighbor that has been using that land for years. A suitable buyer would be the person that's been using that property for years and years and years as part of their operation. That is a suitable buyer. And I want to make the record extraordinarily clear that if there's a cash sale, the folks that have been using that property, lived adjacent to that property, had for years struggled to try to make this combination of federal and private ownership work, get the first choice and be suitable. With that, I yield back. But Mr. Chair, I just want to make it clear. We cannot leave these little communities in these great, big, vast areas subject to this crazy Jabberwocky approach that was designed years ago to finance the railroads in areas where they actually did have water, as we sure don't have it out on the west end of the United States. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Is there further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Stauber, you're recognized.
believe it or not, Mr. Bentz said exactly what I was going to say, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Is there further discussion? I recognize myself, and I want to begin by recognizing that H.R. 2317, the Northern Nevada Economic Development and Conservation Act, is a top priority of Representative Amadei's and something that he's been working on for well over a decade. As he already mentioned, over 80% of Nevada is federally owned, more than any other state in the nation. And as Representative Bentz pointed out, the federal government owns a staggering 56.3 million acres of Nevada, in an area larger than the entire state of Kansas. This enormous federal estate presents significant challenges for rural Nevada communities by limiting economic development opportunities and local control. Because federal lands are not taxable, Nevada's state and local governments are deprived of an important source of revenue to support education, law enforcement, emergency response, and many other critically important public services. Representative Amadei's bill, which is similar to legislation that passed this committee last Congress by voice vote, offers solutions to these problems that have been developed directly by the counties, towns, and tribes affected by the legislation. The bill permits the eventual conveyance of over 390,000 acres to help bring economic opportunities to northern Nevada, create new job opportunities, and allow more opportunities for local communities to meet their long-term development, recreation, and conservation needs. While I will be voting to advance this bill out of committee today, I do remain concerned with the inclusion of restrictive land designations, including a significant amount of new wilderness. Representative Amadei and I have talked about this, but he has worked very closely with his local officials back home. I do look forward to working with Representative Amadei to address these concerns as the bill moves forward. Again, I want to recognize Representative Amadei for his longstanding work on behalf of the communities in northern Nevada. He has been a strong advocate for his constituents and has worked hard to advance locally supported proposals. I look forward to continuing to work with Representative Amadei to further refine this bill. I yield back the balance of my time. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, it is now in order to consider amendments to H.R. 2317. We will now consider the amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 2317 offered by the gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Amadei, designated Amadei 29 ANS. Without objection, the amendment is considered read and open to amendment at any point. Mr. Amadei, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, I want to thank you for putting on the record my notable decade worth of effort which failed to bear fruit on this matter, and I'm glad to have that as part of the record permanently on my performance, and I will say it was an accurate statement. With that, I am offering the amendment in the nature of a substitute to update the legal descriptions in Washoe County, or in Douglas County. Because of the tribal transfer language in the bill, during the amount of time when I was being so effective on this, some of those of that estate has been transferred through other processes in the BIA to tribal members. So the amendment in the nature of a substitute changes the legal description to reflect accurately the present state of ownership and not try to retransfer those parcels which have been transferred to individual tribal members in the interim. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Is there further discussion on the ANS? I support Representative Amadei's ANS, which does make minor changes to Title I of the bill, which is a title that affects Douglas County in northern Nevada. And I yield back. Is there further discussion on the ANS? We'll now consider the amendment, if there's no further discussion on the amendment, it's now in order to consider amendments to the ANS to H.R. 2317.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment.
So we will now consider the amendment designated by Representative Malloy, designated Malloy 69, offered by the gentlewoman from Utah. Without objection, the amendment is considered read, and Ms. Malloy, you're recognized.
I'm offering this amendment to the ANS at the request of the bill's sponsor, Mr. Amadei. It makes minor changes based on technical feedback from the Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management, as well as small revisions requested by the minority. Specifically, the amendment clarifies which secretary is identified for titles that include U.S. Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management. It removes duplicative language, ensures reference maps are properly identified, and at the request of the minority, strikes all reference to the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act, or CERCLA, which Mr. Amadei's team has agreed to. The amendment text has been shared with the stakeholders, and this bill has received no objections. And finally, since I still have some time remaining, Mr. Chairman, I want to take the opportunity to quickly recognize Mr. Amadei, who's retiring after 15 years of service to the people of Nevada's 2nd District. He's been a friend and a mentor to me. We served together on this committee and also on the Appropriations Committee. On both committees, we've worked together on tough issues that really matter to our constituents. He's a fierce and relentless advocate when it comes to the needs of Nevadans. Nevada is the only state with a higher percentage of public land than Utah, where I represent, and I'm sympathetic to the complexities of public land management in a state where public land acres have a supermajority of the acres. So it's my pleasure to offer this amendment on behalf of my friend and neighbor, Mr. Amadei, and with that, I yield back.
The lady yields back. Is there further discussion on the amendment? Mr. Huffman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to continue to express our concern about the process. It's not midnight this time around. I'm grateful for that. But, here we are again with a last-minute amendment on a very large technical bill that came to us very late. We only learned about it a few days ago. I understand Representative Malloy's amendment is technical. It may even include some of the changes that we have asked for. So that's great. But while I appreciate that effort, it was filed late last night. 7 pages of cleanup language to a nearly 100-page bill. This does have some echoes to the 33 pages we were presented with, around midnight during reconciliation. And we were told nothing to see here, local support, and there was much more to the story. So, Mr. Chairman, this is no way to run a major piece of legislation, and we continue to have concerns about the process. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Is there further discussion? I recognize myself. The amendment offered by Representative Malloy makes a number of technical and clarifying changes that improve the bill, and also say that she was spot on her comments about Representative Amadei's work. These revisions will improve implementation, provide additional administrative flexibility, increase transparency, and make other minor changes throughout the bill. These edits reflect feedback from the minority as well as the affected stakeholders. I thank Representative Malloy for offering the amendment, and I yield back the balance of my time. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? If there's no further discussion, the question is on the amendment offered by Ms. Malloy, designated Malloy 69. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment is agreed to. The question now occurs on the amendment in nature of a substitute to H.R. 2317 offered by the gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Amadei, designated Amadei 29 ANS. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment in the nature of a substitute is adopted. The question now occurs on reporting H.R. 2317 as amended to the House with the recommendation that the bill be favorably approved. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, but I will request a recorded vote, and the proceedings will be postponed until further notice. We're going to take a 10-minute recess, and then we will reconvene for votes. The committee stands in recess.